I used to believe that hard work paid off, that if you put in the effort, the late nights, the backbreaking tasks, the corporate politics, you'd finally be rewarded. That was my driving concept. And for a minute, it looked like I was right. After years of grinding, after pushing myself beyond tiredness, after witnessing others get promoted ahead of me while I cleaned up their messes, I had finally earned my position at the top. A promotion, a 50% raise, more money than I had ever made in my life. It was the type of moment I had fantasized about, the sort that made all the sacrifices, the skipped vacations, the holidays spent at my desk, the nights I barely slept, worth it. I should have been over the moon. And I was. Until my wife stood up and wrecked everything. The setup. The restaurant was one of those high-end places where you had to make reservations a month in advance. Low lighting, white tablecloths, servers in suits flowing between tables like they were destined to serve the privileged. I had never felt like the elite before, yet tonight I was. This wasn't just any party. My wife had prepared it. Olivia, my employer, my CEO, the woman I had spent the last 8 years supporting both at home and at work. She had insisted on making it a big deal. "Come on, sweetie," she had remarked, her flawlessly manicured fingers adjusting my tie before we left. "The home I worked so hard for. You deserve to be rewarded." I had believed her. I had walked into that restaurant feeling proud, feeling like I had won. What a joke. The moment it all changed, the night had started nicely. Laughing, drinks, toasts in my honor. Even Daniel, one of the senior executives at the organization, had pulled me aside to shake my hand. "You earned this, man," he had said. "No one deserves it more." It was the recognition I had needed for years. I peered across the table at Olivia, expecting to see pride in her eyes. Instead, she was grinning. Not the proud type of smirk, not the sort a woman gives her husband when he achieves something wonderful. Instead, it was the sneer of someone who knows a secret you don't. And then she rose up. She raised her glass, her voice smooth and commanding, the same voice that had led entire boardrooms to latch onto her every word. "I just want to take a moment to acknowledge my husband," she murmured, her lips curving upward like she was delivering a punchline to a joke I hadn't caught yet. I smiled, waiting for the accolades. Instead, she dropped the bomb. "Your raise belongs to my lover, Liam. He needs it more." Silence. Complete, suffocating hush. I swear I could hear my own heartbeat. The clinking of glasses had ceased. Forks hovered midair. Even the waitstaff, trained to ignore affluent people's conversations, paused. It seemed like time had frozen. My brain fought to grasp what I had just heard. Did she just say lover? I glanced at her, hoping that maybe this was some kind of twisted joke. But Olivia was dead serious. That smirk remained, as if she had just made some kind of strategic business move. I looked around the table. Daniel's expression turned to stone. A few co-workers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some looked at Olivia like she had lost her mind. Others looked at me with pity, and that was worse than anything else, because I didn't need their pity. I needed to wake the hell up. The breaking point, it would have been easy to react with rage, to jump up, to yell, to demand an explanation, to ask her how long, to ask her why, but the reality is, I already knew. I knew the moment she said it. This wasn't some startling revelation. This wasn't fresh. She had been planning this. She had been waiting for this moment. She had called this meal. She had organized this entire night, not to honor me, but to shame me, to put me in my place, to remind me that despite my promotion, despite the money, after everything I had done, she still owned me, or at least she believed she did. The reaction that changed everything. I could feel all eyes on me, waiting, expecting me to disintegrate, and maybe the old me, The one who spent years trying to impress Olivia, the one who let her make every decision, the one who told himself that love meant sacrifice. Maybe that version of myself would have. But I wasn't that man anymore. So I did the last thing she anticipated. I laughed. Not a small, uncomfortable chuckle. Not a nervous, confused laugh. A full-bodied, gut-wrenching, irrepressible laugh. The kind of laugh that makes a room even more uncomfortable. The kind that says, I just realized something, and you are going to regret this moment for the rest of your life. The instant Olivia lost control, across the table, Daniel let out a small chuckle. He shook his head, took a sip of his drink, and stated, That's hilarious, because he's not getting a dime. For the first time, Olivia's smirk vanished. Her entire demeanor transformed. Gone was the cool, calculated CEO. Gone was the woman who always had the upper hand. She blinked, her fingers tightening around her wine glass. Pardon me? Daniel turned to me. How much was your raise? I swallowed the lump in my throat. 50%. A few of my coworkers gasped. Daniel nodded, then turned back to Olivia. His voice cold as steel. 50%, he repeated, and every single bit of that is going into his bank account, since he earned it. The aftermath Olivia's mouth clenched. She hadn't expected resistance. She had expected me to crumble. She had expected me to agree, to say something weak, like, Of course, sweetheart, whatever you think is best. But that, man, he was dead, and I was prepared to burn the whole thing down, because this night, it wasn't a party. It was a declaration of war. Replied Jessica, sighed in relief. All done. We have extra security on your account now. No transfers without direct consent from you. I should have been relieved, but all I felt was hatred. Because Olivia hadn't just tried to take my money. She had tried to erase me, to steal the future I had finally battled for. And I knew one thing for sure. She wasn't done yet. The confrontation. I didn't call Olivia. I didn't text her. I wanted to see the look on her face when she realized she had failed. So I waited. And sure enough, later that night she contacted me. I responded, putting, "I'd on speaker? What the heck did you do?" I let out a slow breath, staring at the ceiling, amused. "I was just about to ask you the same thing." "Don't play games with me," she snapped. "Where's the money?" I laughed, truly laughed. "You mean my money? The one you tried to steal?" Her breath hitched, barely for a second, but I caught it. Because for the first time she wasn't in control. I could imagine her pacing angrily, trying to understand how her lovely, tiny scheme had fallen apart. "You don't understand," she snarled. "No, Olivia," I said, my voice steady. "You don't understand. You attempted to rob me, and you failed." Stillness. Then, in a tone so cold it sent chills down my spine, she muttered, "You'll regret this." And then she hung up. The aftermath, I sat there, staring at my phone, her words still echoing in my head. She had said it like a promise, like she still had cards left to play. And that's when it hit me. Of course she did, since Olivia wasn't the kind to admit defeat. She had previously tried to take my money. She had failed, which meant she was going to come after me in a way that was much, much harsher. I wasn't dealing with an angry ex-wife. I was dealing with a powerful, cruel CEO who didn't like to lose, and I had just declared war. I should have known Olivia wasn't done. The woman wasn't wired to accept defeat. She didn't simply lose, she ruined anyone who tried to question her. And now I was her new target. Because if she couldn't steal my raise, she'd find another means to take me down. I just didn't expect her to come for my entire career. The boardroom ambush started with a meeting invitation, an urgent boardroom meeting the following morning. Subject: Performance and Company Reformation. I knew what that meant the second I saw it. She wasn't going to let me walk away clean. She was going to fire me at my own job, the one I had busted my ass for, the one I had earned without her help, and she was going to make a spectacle out of it. I walked into that meeting prepared for war. The meeting room was packed with executives, top managers, and board members. Olivia sat at the head of the table, poised, professional, a queen in her palace. Yet I saw the smile playing on her lips, the way she leaned back, waiting for the moment she could watch me crumble. She was going to humiliate me, to show everyone that I was nothing without her, and I was going to spoil her plans right in front of them all. The new leadership structure speech. She led her speech effortlessly, addressing the room like a true executive, given the recent developments. In our firm structure, she remarked, it's become evident that some reassignments are required. Reassignments. That was corporate language for demotions. She gazed at me, only for a second, and I knew I was the target. Then, she delivered the ultimate blow. To ensure efficiency, she continued, we've agreed that some jobs will be reconstructed, effective immediately. She folded her hands neatly, scanning the room. And then, as if it was only a little footnote, she said, starting today, my spouse will be shifting into a different role. The room shifted. Individuals stiffened. I saw a few executives exchange glances, because they knew what she was doing. Hell, everyone did. She wasn't reorganizing. She was publicly crushing me. Olivia reclined back, waiting for my reaction. She expected shock, shame, cooperation. Instead, I grinned. Turning the tables, I leaned forward, linking my fingers jointly. Fascinating, I remarked. And what role am I shifting to, Olivia? A flicker of displeasure crossed her face. She wasn't expecting me to call her bluff. Given your new elevation, we feel that a slightly changed position would be more advantageous, she remarked smoothly. More corporate speak. Translation. She was stripping me of my authority. I chuckled, shaking my head. It's funny, I said, because last I checked, my contract stipulates that any position change requires board approval. Stillness. Then Daniel, one of the senior board members, spoke up. He's correct, he said, tilting his head. All executive-level shifts require a formal assessment. I watched Olivia's jaw clench. She hadn't expected resistance. She assumed everyone would fall in line, that they'd submit to her authority. But now, once they saw her personal grudge for what it was dirty, unprofessional.